No, I didn't have my Wi-Fi on or anything. I think we're good. We're good to go. All right. What's up? Welcome back, Neal.
Thanks for having
I appreciate you doing that.
me.
Appreciate you doing on short notice. Not that you were
Season 2.
up. It's just, I was so excited I pushed you up in the schedule.
Sure. Sure. Oh, I don't mind it, man. Anytime I get to hide from having to put the kids to bed, I'll take it.
I get you out of that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I took
Thank you.
mine to the pool, and I'm like, all right, let's get them tired. Let's get them worn out.
That's the right idea.
Put them out on that
They
floor.
went and did a 1 mile race.
Oh, no way. Where at?
So, yeah, somewhere near their school. It was like a running race that's from my wife's running club. She's in this. She works for an athletic store for runners and triathletes.
Oh, wow.
She kind of runs the shop and runs the events, does all this other, fun stuff. She's into that stuff. She's a recovered triathlete, as am I. So
Oh, you did
she
triathlete?
just stayed in the gear part of it, I guess.
You were a triathlete?
Yeah, I was a serious triathlete before Jiu Jitsu.
Oh, wow. Let's talk about that, man. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a triathlon, how do you train for a triathlon?
Time. You just run and you swim and you bike. And if you're super competitive, you put a lot of strength training in there too. It's all the things. That's how. And it's honestly people that, there's obviously with any sport, athleticism, genetics, that could be at your favor. Your body composition could be a certain favor. Those things that you may or may not be able to help. But at the end of the day with triathlon, it's like how hard and how long you train essentially will determine how well you do in that. And if you study and you geek out and you get into the training process and all of that, which I got geeked out in, you can get pretty competitive racing. You can get, sort of hit podiums, go to things like nationals.
Oh, wow.
But man, it's just too much training. I don't have the time for it. I literally quit right when my wife got pregnant. It was almost like I was waiting for her to tell me she was pregnant so I could quit that shit.
I just imagine because say for a jiu-jitsu tournament, you could still do a 1.5 to 2 hour class and just do 10-minute rounds or do more intense rounds. But for triathlon, that's how the hell do you train for
time on the road, time in the pool?
Can you do it all in a day of training and then recover in time?
Oh yeah, I would do 2 or 3 a day.
Holy shit!
Especially if I went strength training in. Yeah, dude, it was a solid. If I was really serious about a race, several months before, I'd be 2 to 4 on a weekend. I might put in 6 hours of training or more, depending on what distance the race I was training for. So obviously, this is before I had kids, so it was a little easier to do. And I was pretty successful with it. I was at the end there. I was getting on the podium pretty regularly. Kind of haunted by first place, but there's always somebody that's faster. It seemed like, but still getting on the podium was awesome. But it also was an indication of, all right, I'm older. I've got resources. I've got time. So that takes a piece of it, but it wears the body out.
It's got to.
It just was exhausting. Yeah, I was so skinny, man. I was down to 158. 160.
How much do you weigh now on the regular?
I'm at 185, soaking wet with bricks in my hand.
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit! I gotta imagine that's a draining ass sport because we go pretty hard for a couple.
Oh, it's exhausting.
And then I'll go lift sometimes, and then by the time I get home, I'm like, all right, toast. Start the recovery process now. And then leading up to tournaments, I usually lose a lot of weight. Because I'm training 6 days a week. And I'm trying to do classes. Triathlon is all day moving. If you're training for that and you're lifting weights, you don't stop moving the whole day.
No, man. I mean, work was my rest time or sleep. But then you're sleep deprived too, because if you're training that many hours and you're holding down a job, and I had a regular job then, I had to drive to work. So I was up butt crack early to get a session in. Then I would get a session in at lunch, and then I would get something in the evening.
My God.
And I would just eat.
I was going to say, how much did you
It was terrible. I'd be easily at 5,000 calories a day I was eating. And still skinny fat, too. Well, not skinny fat. Not nearly as fit as I am now.
Really?
And it's kind of crazy. I almost feel like I'd be exaggerating on the amount of effort my new sport is if I even said it was a third of the effort that I put into triathlon. And I feel like I'm in better shape. But triathlon, it's just not good for you for that level of training. I started going into the half iron stuff, and that was kind of almost near the end for me. The longer distance stuff, I really got into it because you had cool destinations and big events. I'd get nowhere near a podium in those events.
What'd you enjoy about it? Did you enjoy the competition, or what was the biggest enjoyment you got? Or motivator, I guess.
It was competition. It was, to me, the best part was bike. Like, I love just beating all the other triathletes at bike. And moving up on the rank on the big events like nationals or a half iron. I was generally just looking at where I would rank on the bike because the rest of my game wasn't keeping up with these guys. So they were running super fast.
So how long is the bike ride usually? I mean, I know they're all different distances, but
well, yeah, depending on the distance, right? But up to at the distances I was doing, it would have been up to 50 or 100 miles, but down as low as 10 miles on the sprint distance.
Dude, what do you tell yourself the whole time? Because it's such a long grind. Like, there's no way you can be in first the whole entire time, right?
No, and you can't really tell if you are because of the way the waves release.
Oh, okay.
And I'm never first on the swim. I'm better off at a distance swim, but never in a race. And so that it would just get crazy at the beginning of the swim. I prefer to stay outside and let all these knuckleheads wear down. I wouldn't be anywhere near the front on the swim. I would certainly catch up on the bike. That was fun. It's passing everybody that got out of the water first. But you can't really tell. When you look at the times afterwards, you'll see the time for each of the segments. And so you can kind of see where you ranked on your swim, on your bike, and your run. My wife is a very, very fast swimmer. So she's always up high on the swimming and the running, and she wasn't there with the bike. Where for me, it was bike. The run was pretty good. Not going to win competitions. The bike I was doing really good on, and those would make up for my swim.
So
but that's the extent of the strategy. It's about it.
What do you tell yourself though when you're running and you're just looking at someone's ass or someone's back for like miles and miles? Like, what are you telling yourself? Like, oh, I'll eventually catch them, or I'll catch them.
It depends. It just depends on how you feel, whether you want to use it as. I did use them as targets, but they would be different based on where my energy levels were. So yeah, obviously, there would be a lot of races where I'm just feeling good. So I'm just trying to pick off and get kills essentially by passing as many people as I could in the run or on the bike. The bike was really what I liked it. Or if there were people that were really, really fast and I just wanted to hang out with them. And depending on where my energy was, like just hang on to this guy, just hang on to this dude. And I'd probably have first place in my age group.
Oh, okay.
Because the guy in front of me might be like a top 5 or top 10, pro bracket, excuse me, or a lower bracket. They're going to be faster, but certainly not as fast as, somebody. And I was doing that in my 30s. So it was, it gets kind of boring, to be honest with you. Like there's not even a shuffle on the bikes. It got exciting in DC at Nationals once, but that was it. Just because we had to kind of get through these narrow parts of the road and everybody was an asshole. That was kind of exciting. That was fun, actually.
I just imagine like running and you're like stuck behind someone. I like that idea though, using them as targets.
Mm-hmm.
So when I did MMA, whenever I was conditioning or cutting weight, whenever I had to run, I hated running. Like I absolutely hated it. And I used to run like from outside my neighborhood all the way down to like Park Boulevard and back. Like it was probably like, man, I don't know how many miles. It had to be at least 3 to 5 miles. And I would just picture my opponent in front of me at all times. And that was the only way I got through it, was like I would just picture the guy I'm fighting, even though sometimes I didn't even know what he looked like, was like at the next pole or like at the light ahead of me or something like that.
Yeah.
But now, so that's where I'm putting myself, is like the competitively like, all right, I got to catch that guy. I got to catch that guy. But
yeah.
I was setting myself up to chase the dragon. I'm never going to catch the dragon. I just had to get through cutting weight.
I didn't have the ability to visualize like that. to sort of project that. It's an interesting concept because even with when I got into jiu-jitsu, I went through all these mental gyrations of I kind of know what it's like, but it's still very different. I remember when I wrestled in high school, it's kind of similar to that, but it's still for some reason feels different, much more shocking, honestly. You could think you're a stud walking out there. If it's your first time competing, I mean, it's just it's just going to get to your nerves.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to test it. And I guess it's close to what wrestling was, but I don't remember it hitting me like that. Even the second time I went, I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be easier. It was easier, but not as much easier as I thought it was going to be. I still was stressed.
Everyone in the sport I talked to, especially when I was like earlier on in jiu-jitsu, I mean, MMA, scary as shit. Like there was those nerves were so hard to battle. That was like half the battle was fighting myself. Like the whole opponent part was like one thing. That was almost like the reward. But leading up to it, the stress and like trying to talk yourself into it, and then you're like, holy shit. And then the jiu-jitsu part was still kind of nerve-wracking the first one I did, but everyone in this sport has told me just keep doing it and it goes away. But I think I got a hang on the nerves when I did MMA because walking out to a cage and just walking to a grappling mat. And then the other thing...
That's a little different.
Yeah, another thing that helped me was like when you lose an MMA fight, you spent like months getting ready for that. And once you go in the cage, when you walk out of the cage, it's over one way or another. Like in jiu-jitsu, you can do round robin tournaments. So even if you lose your first match, like you could still shake the jitters and kind of keep moving on.
It's not all about one fight.
Not unless you're doing like, certain rule sets. But like, yeah, I just remember like that mindset. It kind of got me, even my first one kind of got me at first too. But I think I was more putting pressure to look good for the gym than I was like about actually being scared of getting like,
oh yeah,
seriously,
you don't want to let people down.
Yeah, I think I was more like, all right, I'm newer to this gym. I'm competing again for the first time in years. I want to look good. You want the stripes.
Yeah,
shit like that. I want a medal, but it's still, I think, it still kind of wore me out. Just the nerves themselves. That one, like I think I was tired just from worrying my first competition. It's interesting. It still got to you. Like what were you thinking? Like what's going through your head?
Well, this time I had spent time with Professor, some one-on-one time with Professor for this one, and then he drove out to all the way out for my fight only. That honestly added some to it. It was like my first fight. It was like I'm kind of glad nobody was there to see that because that did not work out very well for me. The second fight, the second tournament I got into, this one went a lot better because I had listened to him, but also because Professor's right there. It was just him, and it was me essentially taking his test on the last 5 or 10 sessions I had with him. Right?
Yeah. Did knowing you're going to be on like a live event like Flow and recorded, did that scare you at all, or did that cross your mind?
No, that helped. That motivated me because
that's
for me, yeah. Like I'm gonna go. I'm like this is a reason to try to do. To your point, let's try to make this look good. But then also watching a bunch of white belts fight and realizing, oh my god, we all look like shit. It doesn't really matter, We just look like such amateurs. You could so tell we're white belts.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell at Pans you were stiff. Like you were like,
yeah.
Like there was I don't know. I think maybe your second match he held you in guard the whole time. Was that the second one?
I held him in close guard, trying to get him out, and he just hung on. Didn't really try to. Every time he would break, I had a chance for maybe kind of a sweep, but it just was the most boring jiu-jitsu match I've ever been in, ever. It was terrible. And I felt, just kind of stuck there, and I should have gotten, it's a little hard to take the risk. And I didn't realize that somehow to the advantages that had switched over, or I didn't know what was going on with the score. And I was frankly exhausted because that first match, that dude was a much tougher fight for me, much tougher. way more physical. A couple of moments where I really should have. He didn't take advantage of a couple opportunities that I recognized when I was in the match that I was giving him, but there was a lot more fighting there. And this one, it was just I'm exhausted, in the second match. But whatever, I walked away with something around my neck. It wasn't the gold. I didn't get a podium promo.
You killed it, but you got fucked. You should have been.
Yeah.
And and I'm not saying that bias. Like I'd be honest with you. I think you got fucked. But I mean, it's pretty beast. I mean, hands as a white belt's a big deal. Like now most tournaments are going to feel small if you compete again.
They are. Honestly, dude, at my age, that's the problem. At my age, there's not, the brackets are tiny. The cool thing though is like now I'm a blue belt, so that bracket's much bigger. There's way more in it. I have to figure out, where I want to settle in on my weight. I might go medium heavy at this point.
Jeez, I didn't know you weighed that much.
Oh, I've been putting it on the last 2 weeks. Like,
let's go.
Maybe 3 weeks.
I need your regimen, dude. I'm over here at like 165, so I'm doing 168s. So that's lightweight. IBJJF lightweight.
Yeah. Well, dude, you need another 20 pounds just to survive in our gym. To be honest with you.
That's I was like 189 when I walked in there. Like I was like 188, 189. And then and then I got the training bug, bro, and I just started training like crazy. Like I'm doing like stand up, I'm doing grappling, a lot of 2-a-days. And dude, I cut like down to like 170 so fast. And I was cool with that. Like I feel strong.
Were you loose at 189?
It's hard to say because I was like shaking off all the rust. Like I took like a 5 to 6 year break from any kind of athletic training. I mean, I was lifting weights a lot, but I wasn't like doing anything with it. Like I was just going to the gym, lifting, sitting in the sauna.
Yeah.
But so I came back and the whole game changed. Like I went from jiu-jitsu being like very fundamental and basic, and like when you went to a gym, it was like arm bars, omoplatas, triangles. That was like the little trio that you trained a lot. I come back and there's like lasso, spider guard, de la hiva. Like I'm like, what the fuck are all these? What is all this like leg wrap and shit? Like we wrestle ups. We did like butterfly was kind of a big thing. So I had like a lot of rust to shake up. I had to get back in shape, and then I had to figure out what the hell was going on. And so it was like, and it's like blue belt. Like I was like in survival mode, so it's kind of hard to judge. I felt like once I cut down to 170, I felt good there. I felt like really, I felt flexible, but yet strong, but yet fast. Like I felt like that was a good balance.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the speed thing, but that's the age thing. And honestly, I've been focusing on remaining calm. It's what I've learned about, hey, I've been able to calm down from white belt. And for any white belt out there, it's hard to even recognize that you're not being calm. Like the second 6 months in, was when I started to realize I still had that issue. And Zach was reminding me constantly, like things like breathing and calming the fuck down and not realizing that you're not being calm. Like, yeah, sure, I'm being calm. But you're not. And then I found that, but I don't know how to where I'm struggling is I know how to make it all calm, but I'm going to have to actually move my ass pretty quickly once in a while. And that's that regulation and choices.
It's an interesting dynamic. I tell like a lot of like white belts or blue belts when they first come in, they're like huffing and puffing. They're so like, when they grab something, they're like this, like full depth.
Yeah.
Everything.
Grippy, grabby, hang on. Yep.
And then it's like anything you do, they're like fidgety. Like if you push, you get like you get like a super strong reaction no matter what you do to them. And I'm always like telling them like, hey, take a deep breath and breathe. Don't you're going to get beat. Breathe and think, and you'll get a lot farther. If you stay tense like this and fidgety the whole time, you're going to get injured, and then you're going to get deterred.
Yep.
I'm like, breathe, take your ass whoopings. If you get put in the same position 2 or 3 times, take a mental note and ask the question later to some either professor or a higher belt, and or buy my private DVD for it now. But like, I think that is like probably like the most valuable fundamental. But And I used to be scrambly. I used to be like really fast and good at scrambling. I mean, I still do scramble a lot, but like I hit a point to where I'm like, I told myself in my head, like, don't push scrambles. Like I just started telling myself, like, try to figure it out. So at the normal points where I'd be like, okay, I could probably pull the leg and beat him and just speed around him and try to beat his reaction. That's when scrambles would start, because then like I go to like push around, someone react, and it's react, react, react. And it was just until I got ahead of them, and then I'd hold them. I'd be tired. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just start trying to figure shit out. And that was big. And that's kind of like it sounds like where you're at now, where you're like kind of like I sent you that video earlier today. I don't know if you watched it. I should have put some context.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch that one. I watched your instructional, which was hilarious.
For you listeners, you need to YouTube my instructionals. They work. I don't put shit out there that does not work, and that's
no. This one, I would say, maybe a choice few. I'd say a 99% success rate. Some fucking weirdos could handle this, but most can't.
That's the smell my finger choke, right? Is that the new one?
Yeah. That's that one. Yes.
No, I sent you another.
Smell my finger escape.
Yeah, I told. So the other one I sent you, like it's like a good concept, but I sent it specifically to you, because it's a position like what we spoke about the last time we rolled, where I'm like, don't lean too far forward, get your head ahead.
Yes.
Stuff like that will end up having you pushing scrambles too, because someone's going to yank you, and then you're going to have to catch yourself, and then you're going to have to get caught up, and then now you're going to be exhausted. So that's why I'm like, all right, like kind of like boxing, like sit back on your butt, like in your base, especially from wrestling. It's almost like you're sitting ready to shoot at any time, but like holding that balance. I think it's like huge to breathe and then understand where you are more so than just try to like fight like every round's a tournament. I don't know. That's my strategy these days. Study.
Well, I agree. It's not a tournament. And I did get used to getting, pretty much beat by every single person I rolled with, especially in that class in the class I'm in, which is, it's nice to see some new folks in there, to be honest with you. It's great. But I kind of like that. It helped me start to break through the parts. You start to realize why you like jiu-jitsu. You think, for me at least, right? You got your reasons you like it, and they start to evolve. And then now the level I'm at now, they've settled into an area that I think for me is more sustainable. Before it was things like, it's going to get me fit. Never would I think of it as a form of self-defense. I just always thought of it as a really fun way to compete and to get exercise. It was never a ego thing. And then I get on the mat, and I remember how much it hurt to lose.
Yeah.
How much it hurt to have other people beat me. And I would forget things like age and weight. I was like, wow, I'm losing a lot. I thought I was going to get somewhere with somebody, but I'm not getting anywhere with anybody. When you first started in more advanced classes, and it's more, but I learned that is, to your point, all about learning how to survive. And I honestly feel like I remember the stage I went through where I was actually becoming really, if I didn't go for anything offensively, I could stay safe with most people. I could find ways to be the most boring role that you had the whole day and just stay safe until that annoyed people.
Yeah, I don't in the safe, unless I'm like,
then it got fun.
Unless I'm competing, then I like do like risk analysis. But like again, and tell me what you think. Like, but I feel like my strategy more so now, maybe because I'm a higher belt, I have less to prove, or maybe because I have experience, so I have less to prove to myself. But I kind of like give you a good example, like Guilherme. He told me one time, I used to be all top. Like I used to be guard passing, top pressure, like especially when I had more weight. And like I rolled him one day, and he's like, man, like you need to work your guard. You're too good to be incomplete. And he said that to me, and I'm like, fuck. Now I had a choice to make in my head. Like, I'm not comfortable with guard. I fucking hate it. I still don't really like guard. I almost use it to get back to my feet now. But point being, like, I spent 6 months getting my ass kicked in guard. And you know how hard that is, speaking from what you just said. Like, almost like swallowing the ego and being like, fuck, like I'm getting my ass kicked by people that like I can competitively roll with. They're beating me. And then I have to hear about how like, oh, they, you know, they whoop my ass, they sweep me all the time, that kind of shit. And I had to put up with that. That's part of like the mental ego. But I realized I got so much further putting in that 6 months that like I was just like, it started kind of triggering every now and then. I put myself in check. Like I'd be like, okay, like here's a system I'm going to try. And, you know, I'm not saying like you got to practice what you're good at so you keep it sharp, but like, you know, at least pick some roles or some weeks to like.
Yeah, you've got to move around and work on other things.
Get uncomfortable.
That's I love that about it. That's literally what I'm saying is I'm finally getting past that fog of fight and flight and figuring out how to survive. I got some good advice from a couple, you know, from Andy. Andy gave me some good advice. Sometimes, you know, you guys give advice and you don't realize sometimes that shit's really good, and we actually, you know, we take it to heart.
It works.
But from Andy's was like, honestly, dude, if you want to like, what if you asked me what we'd love to see from you from senior belts? Fuck around, try some shit on us. Don't just show up and try to be safe and calculated and go home and think you're not gonna win, right? And it's true, right? Maybe that one time, but I've spent so much time on some singular thing versus just be interesting and go after and do something crazy. Like you saw something on chokes or more. Great, go try to pull that shit on me.
Yeah, I mean, like try it on an upper belt, try it on a lower belt, try it on a similar competitive belt, and you know, take what works and build it from there. That's what I like to do.
Fuck around. It was literally the first part of the wake up call, right? This is a game. There's a reason why they used to call it Jiu Jitsu players. I mean, it's literally is a game. Be playful.
Backer and I can't roll serious because I think we like to throw shit at each other to see how the reactions go, and then we just have fun. Like it's like, I mean, sometimes we'll like, and I think today we were a little bit more competitive with each other, but like for the most part, it's just like here's an opportunity to do like some fun shit against somebody who will give legit reactions. So that's good advice from Andy. Shout out to you, Andy. But like that's good. I like that idea. Like, yeah, come in, fuck around on the upper belts. You're probably gonna get tapped anyway. We know where we're at.
Yeah.
Fucking try it, get tapped, and be like, well, I was going for that.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
That one I was broken a long time ago by counting how many times I got submitted in a roll. Like I don't even care anymore. Was it fun getting there? Because it was gonna happen. You could at least make it fun.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what it's all about, man. And then like, you know, I've also learned like I get burnt out if I'm always training like it's a tournament. But then when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna compete this date, I set that date in my head, and then I have like a month of like pushing the pace and trying to get in better and better shape to compete. And then that's when I go from fucking around to like, okay, like I gotta take these roles serious, but I'm still not like a dick about it. Like I'm just if I'm rolling with you, I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, like I want to try this strategy on you, but I'm not gonna get the give and take. I'm not giving. Like if I earn something, I'm not giving it back. And that's where I'll turn up my mind in that point. Like it's like, okay, if I get a knee slice, I'm not letting you get me out of the knee slice. Like I'm gonna commit all the way through. Whereas normally for rolling, I might do a half-ass one, see how you react, and I might have 2 or 3 ideas in my head. When I'm getting ready to be serious or like to go to a tournament, I get rid of the whole give back shit. Like if I earn it, I'm trying not to give it.
Right.
I'm trying not to work backwards. Is I guess the easier summary.
I think that's a very reasonable approach. You know, maybe I should think about that. But honestly, I'm such a white blue belt. I'm so early in blue belt stage. For me, like I'm not even at the level. I'm not at that strategy piece. I'm literally just recognizing. I'm like climbing like over a horizon of something, and then recognizing shit. I thought that was kind of fun, but it was just going to be difficult to make it all the way through the life cycle of this thing because I'm probably going to get hurt. Oh, wait a minute. I really don't give a shit about getting my ass kicked. I try not to give a shit about rolling against a white belt and not letting them get an arm bar because, you know, blue belt's not supposed to get submitted by a white belt where I don't really give a shit. But then I still kind of do when I'm rolling and I'm trying to get rid of that. But that's all that remains of the ego piece, to be honest with you. what's great is that there are some black belts and some higher belt like yourself that you guys roll easy and you're very instructional. You guys explain a lot as you're rolling with us. And that is actually very helpful because honestly, I think that's the way jiu-jitsu is meant to be taught.
Yeah. If I make you better, you make someone else better.
Yeah.
Makes better, which also gives me better results. So,
but anyway, all that to be said, at the end of the day, jiu-jitsu's biggest benefit for me personally has been what it does. It has changed my life. Sorry, cliche, stupid shit, but it literally has. So many things just don't matter anymore that mattered too much. Where my awareness, my level of awareness or presence, those things are gifts. I haven't been able to get that any other way, and it changes my mood. It literally changes my mood. My wife found out I didn't roll today, and she was like very touchy when she got home. She's like, "How are you? Is everything okay?" And some people, they think, you know, what's funny? It's like I think some people think that they're addicted to the thing, and when they don't have it, they're going to be grumpy. No, it's literally that they were always grumpy in some weird way and managing it as best they could, and then that practice that they found that has some kind of effect completely changes mood. Mm-hmm. I've never seen anything like it. I overtrained. I did all the things. I've done meditation. I still do it once in a while. Yoga, all the hippie dippy shit. Drugs. Maybe not ayahuasca yet. Drugs, certainly. I've been to places that nobody else has ever seen for 100% sure, like a couple times. So all those things, but nothing has been able to mood alter like jiu-jitsu. It's amazing to me. And I'm also like 50 now. So I'm way more sentimental about it. I pay more attention to this, more in tune to it.
No, man. I mean, you got to admit, even the people who sign up for a month and leave usually say it did something. Like even the guy who did jiu-jitsu for 2 weeks goes around and tells people that he trained. You know, I mean, he might not be like, I only trained for 2 weeks, but he acts like a jiu-jitsu practitioner. And it's not because it holds some sort of merit. You know what I mean? Whether they want
it does.
Or like it actually like changes your life. But I mean, you could go to 90% of the mats there and everyone's going to be like, I'm here because it changed my life. And most people aren't going to be world competitors. And as we keep talking about, this might be a perfect segue, but as we keep talking about, it's not a lot of money in the sport, or at least not yet. So it's like you're doing it because you
know. Craig's changing that shit. Look, as cringe as that is the smartest thing I've seen done in this sport in a while. Clever.
I think it's fucking awesome. If I had that, if I had that talent and those resources, I 110% would do the same thing. I know I would have been like, fuck that tournament.
But would you have thought of that? It's so ruthlessly simple.
I think so.
You think so?
I think like that a lot.
It just took balls.
I think, and resources. Like not everyone knows somebody with $1 million cash, you know.
But it's also doesn't take let's do the math. How many seats? How much of the ticket's going to be? The chances of you breaking even are pretty high. So, and it's going to generate so much revenue as a result of it. But the only reason it wouldn't be higher is because it's hard to get the seats and because the event's going to be poorly managed. There's no question it's going to be a shit show.
I think it's a recipe of perfect like scenario. Craig Jones is a very likable guy. He's gotten super popular lately, probably more popular than Gordon Ryan because his personality is just way better. It sounds like he's got a really good, I don't want to say manager, but he's got like a business partner and he's got an investor. So he's got someone with the money to do it, who's willing to do it, who trusts him with $1 million cash. And then you got like a manager. And as he said on Rogan, he's like, I'm just the idea guy. But that guy, if you notice, he's on that podcast tour, what everybody does when they got a book coming out or they're running for office or what, they all do the same. Rogan, Lex, Russell Brand.
Somebody's putting them up to these activities, yes.
So someone's got him on a marketing campaign. I mean, like you were talking about, he's got it booked. He knows the money. He knows the seats. He knows how much. He even mentioned like streaming revenue, like how much they're probably going to do in streaming. So like you said, they got it broken down. Now, do I think me personally or Craig Jones personally, like maybe sat down and did all that math? He probably just has a good resource who knows the business.
He probably had to be talked into letting whatever money he had go into it.
Yeah, he said $10,000 to $1 and the $1 from him. That's what he said. He said the $1 is coming out of my pocket personally. So that's like what, $30? I don't know how many
Yeah.
people.
So how many competitors, how many matches do you remember? Was it 16 or something, or 20?
16 is a number that's in my head. I don't know why.
And then it was half of them are over 80 and the other half are below 80 kilograms. Something like that, right?
Which is kind of cool because it's almost like a double absolute. And that's kind of how we do our class sometimes. We take all the below 180 and above 180s and we split the class up and do like training drills sometimes. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of cool.
I haven't seen that. But yeah, that would be cool. I wonder which one I would see. I'm at that weight where I could fall into either one.
Just walk to our wall.
Yeah. Dude, in my first tournament, I was down at one. I was what's right below medium? It was medium light or light medium weight.
Is it lightweight? 168?
168?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was all the way down there. And now I'm trying to get up to, I'd like to be at like 189, 190.
Yeesh. We're going to have to talk about Mexican supplements when we get off.
Well, you know what though? Like it's tough. My body wants to, I have a body type that wants to, it doesn't want to get past like 168 is just like I'm squeezing a lemon really hard for a long time. Like I just can't stay there. I can't stay that low. And then I get more injury prone too. My injuries go down significantly. I know it's geeky to know this, but it's taken a few years to collect the data. But my injury elements have been around the 180 mark. I get less injury issues. As long as it's like real, like it's strength training, right? It's like, but I don't do any heavy weights anymore either. And then the weight's just climbing up. But that keeps me safe in the gym. Because I want to be a little more challenging to like Seth or to High Pockets. For the rest of them, you know, but some of the best rolls I've got, honestly, all of my best rolls all come from guys that are lighter.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of them things too that like, and for the listeners, like, it's one of them things like you never know when you show up and you just learn like one simple detail that changes everything. Especially at blue belt. Like at blue belt, you start having ups and downs, and it's like you get good at something, and then you can't do what you were doing before that was successful, and then you get down, and you're like, man, I fucking suck. And then like you just pick up a detail during one random class, and that one small little detail, it's like, holy shit, now I'm passing, now I'm implementing everything, now I'm doing this, and then it's like back and forth, reset, repeat. It gets, yeah, you're gonna get that one next level boost. It's even studying sometimes, even like sitting here watching a shit ton of videos, I'm like, you know what has oddly helped sometimes, and people will disagree? It's like taking a week off. Like, it's so hard to do because you're so addicted to the gym and it gets depressing not going. Sometimes you take a fucking week off and you show up and like...
I get, when you say that, I go like this. I go, oh.
I know. Like you don't want...
No, I don't do it enough. That's the problem. And it's like, oh no, I shouldn't be taking... Especially like, dude, like 2 weeks ago,
mentally reset you, and then you're like, you come back.
But you're right. I do need that. I actually needed this week. You know, whack my ear. That shit hurt. It's been fucking with me the whole time. Like I can't even think because it's like the most sensitive part of my body. So now I wear headgear. Headgear's fine, but now I feel all broken. Yeah, it's like I never recovered from Memorial Day weekend or some shit. But you're right. I've got to I do need to take time. I technically am, but I'm going tomorrow. Like I'm not going. I felt what it felt like today at 2:00 to not have just gotten off a mat and taken a shower. Like that is like the best part of my day is afterwards, right after. I'm just so doped up on whatever it is that happens, and then take my shower, and then I kill it for the rest of the day.
That's awesome.
It's amazing. But anyway,
going back to like let's roll back to like the so I want to make sure we cover it, like the lean canvases and stuff. We're talking about business and jiu-jitsu.
Oh yeah.
So I mean, I want to brush over that real quick, just because I think that's one of the most valuable things I've learned pretty recently. Because as a person who's been spending a lot of time the past year or two, like plotting and scheming and trying to figure out, you know, what I want to do, which is what I bitch about every episode. Somehow I bring it up so you know it's real. Lean canvases. Where did that come from? Like, where did you learn about
I learned about it actually at a hackathon. I was doing this like volunteer for a hackathon thing. Gosh, this was probably 12 years ago or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I was always interested in the idea of how people think about product ideas and actually get them on rails and like, make a little cheese from it instead of just idea making. Because in my head as a kid, all the way up until I started to grow up a little bit, which is like last year essentially, but I still only focused on just bright ideas, and it never gets you anywhere. You're just that idea person.
Yeah.
Right? And you end up broke and maybe a big portfolio of ideas. Perfect. But you're no Da Vinci pal, so nobody's going to ever find them. It's just not conducive, right? But I became interested in, well, what's the difference between this and this knucklehead over here that, puts ATM machines out and makes a mint, doesn't work at all. How come I can't get to that place? And I've got all these ideas that they couldn't think of on the best drugs. So, that became interesting for me. But I was in IT. I was just, doing my thing, and then they let me do this hackathon, and we had to come up with a product idea. We had a cross-functional team, so I had people on the team that were of specific skill sets that are important to launching a product in the scope of technology. So it had to be software. But the age group was all high school kids from a gifted and talented program somewhere in Central Florida. And so it was essentially a geek fest, but we got to come up with ideas and put them out. But they had to be, of course, to a certain theme. In this case, it was public school thing, so it had to be for something for good. And so we came up with, I can't even remember exactly what the app was, but we had to use a lean canvas process. We had to explain it through that. They taught the lean canvas to everybody so that they knew how to use it. And I became very interested in it. So I started to actually leverage it. First of all, it's a part of the lean system. The only parts of lean I really understand or know are those around agile, or which is a software-driven project management approach, and the lean canvas piece. There's a whole world of it, but frankly, I think it must be cool and everything, and must have been necessary, but less people care about whether you're a Six Sigma black belt than they used to 10 or 15 years ago. They're much more interested in if you understand, agile. Lean canvas is something that product managers learn to get them out on the market, to get products on the market. And it helps you think about, all right, when we have these ideas, we fall in love with the thing that we create in our mind, but now we got to test it against things like, can it actually make money? Right? Can it, and then to answer that question, you can't just say yes. You've got to actually discuss what it is. What's the unique value proposition? What's the, and this is off the top of my head, remembering it. What is the market advantage that you might have, right? And then what is the channel that you can use to create your revenue? What are your revenue streams going to come from, right? So, this sounds simple, but you really have to think that shit out. You have to write it down. You have to explain how it's going to happen.
Unfair advantage, your channels, key metrics, customer segments, revenue streams, cost structure, the problem you're solving, the solution.
Mm-hmm. And we all start in all these weird. But here's the cool thing about Canvas: you don't have to start with the problem you're solving. You could actually recognize I have an opportunity in a channel, and I have to develop the rest of the parts of my canvas. So if you have like a superpower in a certain area, or an advantage or an opportunity, right? If you have an unfair market advantage, then you can literally just have to focus on how I can get to market faster so that I can sell this thing before everybody else gets on their feet to sell it. So it forces you to think about where you're going to have to focus the things in, where as inventors, we show up thinking, well, it just has to be the best possible way to record video, like the beta. I mean, that was definitely the best way. But it failed against VHS on the rest of the parts of the canvas, right? Or enough parts, right? There was enough advantage. which is whatever it might have been for that scenario. That's the thing you get to focus on. So that's what's interesting about it. And that's what has to get broken, I think, for entrepreneurs is don't just focus on, we all get taught at first because we all want to come up with great solutions. That's the most common mistake is I just built an amazing hammer and now I'm just going to go run around looking for nails.
Right.
Versus, well, there's only 2 nails in the universe, pal. So you can go ahead and battle the other hammer for half of the market, which is 1 fucking nail. You should have thought about the rest of it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But as inventors, we don't want to start there. We want to start with the hammer. If you think about it, right? But we have conversations. We go, oh, I know this guy that has a connection with, I don't know, a widgets out of a certain area that people want, a sneaker out of a certain area that people want. That's not because of the product. It's not because of the solution. It's because of the connection. It goes on the canvas, and then you think the rest of it out. It's super effective for vetting out all your bright ideas.
And I think that's great. I think that's like, I've definitely been in that phase where it's like I keep coming up with ideas, and I've tried to write business plans. I've tried to write like things down. But why I like this, and you've been going over it, but kind of repeating what you said, but I like these lean canvases because you feel like you're testing out your idea rather than like, just like if you're writing it down, like I got an idea for use your example of the hammer, and you write down your hammer idea and you're like, we're going to go to these people and sell it for this much and I get it for this cost. And then I'm going to, you start kind of, what's the term here? You start kind of coming up with where you're weak. You start coming up with like you're not, what's it called? Like it's not like a legit, you're not coming up with like an absolutely legit, you're not coming up with like legitimate ways to justify what you're writing. You're just trying to come up with any reason that makes it sound good. I know I probably butchered that and didn't make any sense at all. Yeah.
Rationalize.
Right. Like you'll come up with an excuse why like that part of the idea is good. But, if you write it down on this canvas, I like how it's set up because you get more of you can see how it weighs out. You know what I mean? Like if you can see your weak area and whether it's a worthy idea or
it's
not.
It's objective. It's less subjective and it's objective. Look, it's fun coming up with ideas, right? I mean, that's the most fun part. And then the next most fun part is testing your idea, which as normal lay or amateur entrepreneurs, that's with friends. Hey, what do you think about this idea? And then you get good at defending your idea and continue to rationalize your idea. But then what you never thought about was the fact that somebody else had the idea or that it wouldn't work because of some odd reason that you just never let yourself think about because you're so busy selling it. You got to break that. Part of what I was trying to share with you is like, look, if you're one of those people, I think people think or they lack confidence. You just need to witness all the dumbass ideas that are making tons of money for people for you to recognize that it's not about the idea. It's really about the ability to execute on the rest of that canvas, so to speak, right? To recognize that opportunity and things like how quickly can I get to revenue? Or like you and I were talking about at lunch the other day, if you have a big grandiose idea, right? A big epic, idea, break it down into a smaller one that is a part of that journey that goes to the big one and test shit out and be okay with failing. Honestly, there's just you could spend a whole thing on a whole podcast on the power of failure. It's right. So that whole life cycles depends on you getting here, depends on you failing along the way and forcing you to even change what that vision is at the end. That if you start to, it's almost like in Jiu Jitsu, like the second you start to detach from yourself a little bit and you detach from the need for you to be the one that came up with, the world's most clever invention. That's just ego shit. That's not me trying to make a living.
Right.
Instead, that's what I love Molo so much. Molo settles on packaging because he thought about the rest of those pieces around business. He's very analytical with those things, right? So he's that guy that no chance he loves your idea.
No, there's none. But I like to throw shit at them just because I like the objective, like, thought process.
It's extremely useful. It's the most useful friend to have around to have your business ideas with.
I text him so many things, and I know I'm gonna get like it's gonna get tested. You know what I mean? And I love it because then it also shows me too, like how much am I really convinced? Like if he makes a good point, I'm like, man, that kind of outweighs like what I'm thinking. That's a good point.
Right.
But then he does shit, and I'm like, nah, I don't think it's that bad of an idea because he said this, right. And that's an easy. You're fucking crazy to me, you know. But
you got to look for the volley or the spike. Right? Yeah. If it's just a volley back, then that means like, tell me more. But if it's a spike, it's like, get that shit out of here. I don't even have time to tell you the reasons why.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, and another good point, like, and you said the term a couple times at lunch. He didn't look for a passion project. Like I'm over here trying to find something that I actually enjoy. Like when I did the detailing, I made good money, and I could make good money
but no chance you love doing it.
Yeah, whether I had myself or like 2 employees or 3 employees or a shop where I was mobile, like there was decent money in it. Just like I hated it. Like not hated it, but like I loved a lot of aspects of it. It's just like I was like, man, this ain't gonna be 50-year-old me. Like I'm not gonna be 50 years old climbing in and out of cars.
Back on your knees.
Yeah, like so. I'm like, all right, and then I backed out, and it's like, all right, now I'm looking for something I enjoy. The problem is, I enjoy broke people shit. Weaver at class said, I don't think you were there, but he was like, and this wasn't even me bringing it up. Surprise, surprise! Like it wasn't even me talking about trying to find money in the sport. It was fucking something came up, and he's like, yeah, when I go out on my boat on the weekends and stuff, and I see all them boats and houses go by with like the Jiu Jitsu flags in the yards and stuff, man, it really makes me sit there and think about like how much money's in it. Everyone's quiet and he goes, oh yeah, there are no fucking boats or houses with Jiu Jitsu flags on them.
No.
Everyone's broke. But
that's right. That's changing though.
Oh, it's a growing sport. I think there is money, and I think there are going to be people finding it. You know, that's why I'm so adamant on like just constantly brainstorming. Like, all right, there's going to be something, or one day there's going to be like a volley, not a spike, but a volley your way. And you're going to be like, oh fuck, there's market potential, you know? And
yeah,
that's like,
yeah. I mean, you could get rich in jiu-jitsu. Let's just say the one thing everybody hates to say. You can, but you know the rest of the words. It's the percentage of those versus those that are trying. It's like trying to get rich in the hot sauce business. You know? It's like, there's people that are rich, you know, in the hot sauce business, like 4 of them. You know? And maybe they don't even do hot sauce anymore because they sold that shit off. This shit's different. It's the closest thing, and Gracie's tried to get as close, I think, to revenue creation on it, was turning jiu-jitsu into a business idea. Is the way that they press franchising out there. Now tell me how else you make money. There is a market, right? Mm-hmm. I love, like, I don't know how many viewers or subscribers you have, but if you have a decent number, getting people to speak up and say, what would be valuable is a good way to start with, you know what? I'm not filling up with being the idea guy anymore. People just tell me bunches of problems and ideas. I'll take both and then work on the rest of the canvas.
It's kind of exciting. You brought that up. Hold on, let me grab a charger real quick because I'm gonna have to switch up my audio here because I'm like dying. But hang tight one.
Now you definitely have to edit that so you don't incriminate my wife and me.
It's all satire here on my show. All right, so we were talking about subscribers and listeners. So I just broke into like I get like upwards of like I just started getting into the thousands of at least listens. Which is really fun in itself because you get to watch the numbers, but it doesn't mean it's like I'm not trash talking anyone out there that's listening, but it doesn't mean it's like a quality, you know. It's still really hard to fine tune and figure out like what's capturing, what's not. It's actually a lot of analytical stuff. It's pretty cool though. I do like that. Going back to like numbers.
That part of the business.
Yeah, and I wouldn't even necessarily call it a business yet because the only thing I made money off of is t-shirts, and that's just exploiting the pins and the Tom the Blast stuff. But it is what it is.
Oh, how did that? Is that still getting drug out?
No, but like the
Zach
t-shirts
anybody?
locally have been nice. And I was talking to somebody in the Discord who trains all the way in Trinity, and they knew about all of it. And he's like, "Oh, I want a t-shirt." He's like, "I heard about that shit. Shit's funny as hell." So somehow it's made waves. So good for him.
Yeah.
And I really wish I would have got a podcast with him and we could talk about his outlook on it and my outlook on the scale stepping prank, but whatever. I guess they wanted
I think it's
I guess
hilarious,
they
man.
wanted the
I mean,
perpetrator.
I don't know the story whether he like chased.
What's the story?
I mean, it didn't actually. Alcohol
Hmm.
wasn't bad, right? Like, it's not like he actually hurt somebody.
It's
He did fuck with somebody's head,
internet people trying to be internet people.
But did he tell the guy?
yeah. Yeah, I know, but still it forces everybody to go, all right, well, you still think about it. Like, was it really that uncool? No. The funny factor was way better than whatever uncoolness.
The dude,
That
yeah,
dude's
the dude
fine.
who he
He
did
made
it to
his
a bunch of
max.
people, and the dude that was on the scale, what they didn't tell you on the internet, and I was kind of holding on to this just in case we had the debate, but like that dude stepped on the scale like 3 or 4 times before that even happened. And
Oh, he kept going back. So he was in that.
it wasn't his first step on the scale. It was a practice scale, which anyone who's doing pans knows that like the scale outside isn't the
Right.
official scale. And anyone who's walking in there should know your fucking weight. At 8 in the morning when you're walking in to compete, it's not like you got all day to cut. Like you should be on weight when you go to bed and you should wake up and weigh yourself. And if you're cutting that much weight for a
Dude,
Masters
it's like
2
the first thing
division,
I
like,
did. You're absolutely right. It's still the first thing I did.
yeah, you come on now. And then you're going to sit there and whine, oh, some people train all year for pans. It's like, if you train all year, then I hope you know your fucking weight when you wake up and when you're walking into the event. You know what I mean? Like, maybe you shouldn't be cutting so much weight to,
Yeah,
like, I don't know. It is what it is. Like,
that's fair.
I guess it could be
I
that's my side of it.
didn't give a shit. It was
Yeah.
funny. And honestly, the first thing I would have done if it didn't make sense is turn around and look, because I was on a wrestling team once. We did that shit to each other all the time.
Dude, everyone
So,
there took themselves so
whatever.
fucking serious. I don't know about when you were in there, but like the day that I was in there and I was walking around like, bro, it's like
More serious than any of the events I have been to
it's
before.
so fucking early. I'm not a morning person.
Like it's
So I'm
picked
there at
up.
like 8:30 in the morning,
Yeah.
which means I got up at 5 in the morning to get ready and drive down there. And fucking like I'm walking around this event and everyone's just sitting there mean mugging and all this and like no one's cracking a smile. And dude, we're having fun. Like we're fucking running around, we're joking with each other and
Yeah.
everyone else, and everyone was so fucking serious, dude. I'm like, dude, this is really like the outcome's gonna be the same whether you sit here and stare at me or not. Like it's like, and
I guess though, think about it. They all flew there. Sometimes you're in a different
yeah, I
headspace.
guess
When it's a different level of serious when you flew to the tournament and you spend a little money on it. Yeah,
I guess
come
so.
on.
But walking in the door and being all grumpy face and shit, it's like it's not really gonna change the result to me in my head. And it's like you're just letting the nerves run you. What are you trying to convince yourself you're ready to go and you're the biggest badass in here? Yeah, well, so is the guy next to you, and
Yes.
so is the guy next to him, and so am I, and so is everyone in that event. Like we're all in the same fucking spot, bro. Like you're not,
Yeah.
and your frowny eyes aren't gonna get you any further in the tournament than if you cracked a smile and we're like, hey, today's a good day. But who knows?
Maybe it's just to get in your head,
Everyone
man.
competes differently, so maybe that is where they need to be. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I just know I go in there and I'm pretty laid back and I have a good time.
I don't get it either. Yeah.
I'm like,
I feel the same way, right? Like anytime any of my favorite dudes, they'll walk up and they're smiling and happy and ready to go, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing?" They're not this almost like boxing, became like just trying to intimidate each other situation. Like those are the ones I like, or at least the ones that are quiet and very, very respectful.
what about like Mighty Mouse? Dude was happy and cheerful, right?
I love him.
Killed it.
Yes, 100%.
Taking pictures
100%.
of everybody, smiling. I'm out here hunting big boys, just
Yeah, he
having a
was having a
blast, and
blast.
that dude wrecked it. You know what I mean? Like you can have a good
Yep.
time. I don't know. Like you don't. It's not
Yeah.
like we're fighting for mortgages.
Who had the best time?
Yeah, this
He's the dude
he
that had the
definitely
best
did,
time.
man. I got pretty upset for a day or two. It didn't ruin me, but I was disappointed in the outcome. I feel like I should have won, and I just dropped the ball, and I didn't even know I was dropping the ball. I don't know.
Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu tournaments are funky in my head, so that's why you just got to go out there and just do your best. Some days you,
I think it was bullshit. I don't know how the guy even feels good about it, to be
I'd like to
honest
have
with
him
you.
on and talk to him about
You
it.
know, like from my perspective, I'd feel terrible. You
First thing he did,
should.
I've reached out to people I've competed against already, and said, hey, I'd love to do an episode where
Why don't you call him out on a rematch at one of the
I'm kind of
gyms?
like I've been
Like
looking at
find
the
out where he
IBG,
is.
the Orlando Open, and I'm like, I wonder if his name's gonna pop up on the bracket. I did that today. I was like, all right, let's see who signed up.
Are you gonna just chase
I don't
him?
know if I'm gonna just chase him because I might do adult, but I also might do Masters one because there's a slight chance that I do Master Worlds. So it's like maybe I hit another Masters tournament and get ready for Worlds. I don't know. I'm planning in my head how it goes. I want to compete a lot at this belt.
Are you doing Worlds this
Maybe a
year?
slight chance. You know how it is with kids and
Oh,
shit,
come
bro. Nothing
on.
moves easy, and there's a lot of planning and plotting and money behind everything. So it's kind of like, but I might rather do Masters at the Open just in case like I do that opportunity does work out. You know what I mean? So we'll
Yeah.
see if he's on that.
All right. Well, reach out to all your Talkin Jit t-shirt customers,
Yeah, I told him.
and start
A lot of you
right.
guys,
Pump some
a
more
lot of you guys
t-shirts.
listening can make a difference. I'm telling you right now, I am selling taps. I will tap out in front of Professor if you pay me $20 per tap. $30 you get to choose the submission, and
You
I'll,
would say what
I'll let
was
you
it?
hit me right in front of Professor trying to raise money for Pans right now. So think about it. A lot of you guys got 4 stripes, looking to level up, tapping a brown belt in front of your professor. Looks pretty good. You know, there's money in jiu-jitsu.
Maybe you shouldn't.
10
That's
taps a day,
hilarious.
200 cash, not a bad
Please
day.
tell me if somebody. I want to know who agrees to that and
It's a
pays
pretty
me
big
money.
deal, man. I don't know. I don't tap very often.
Oh,
And
shut the fuck.
when was the last time you tapped me, bro? It's valuable. It's supply
Never,
and demand, homie. Supply. I
never.
don't hand them out for cheap.
That's so you tap you out my
I got a
wallet.
lean
That's it.
canvas right here, and I'll start filling it out for you. There's money in this shit, man.
Uh,
So let's get into how AI is going to change the world for good or for evil.
ooh.
I think it's going to make
Well, give me a good evil idea. Let's start with something that
deep
most don't
fakes,
start with. Come up with a original. Okay, give me a way that you can make it happen.
campaign,
The
campaign.
synopsis.
You could, well, this is probably,
Control the Manchurian candidate
yeah, like
situation.
you can make videos of your, what is it, your competitor doing some shady shit. I don't know, like Diddy shit, you know? Like, what if it's like, hey, this is straight from Diddy Combs' camera that we recovered from his house, and it's just like a kind of a shitty AI video of a candidate walking into Diddy's house at a party and going in a room with, who knows? That could be pretty detrimental. Or what if you want to blackmail people? What if you
Yeah.
have it set up to you have enough, like, you take someone with a podcast, now you have their voice. What if you could call people and be like, hey, I'm in trouble, I need money? Just
Dude, that just happened. Like, that was like last week. Actually, way before last week.
old news.
That shit's happening all
Right.
the time. Yeah. Like, all the deep fake shit, that's real. That's just proof that now think bigger. If you could take control of something with it, or influence something in a certain direction, or even do something for, I'll give you an example. There's been several crashes in the U.S. economy that were caused by synthetic trading or automated trading, where there was trading algorithms that are automated and authorized to buy and sell stocks with certain rule sets. And these algorithms were getting good at shorting stocks and playing all kinds of games to gain, significant amounts of money. They were capable of, you could give it a specific intent and it would do well at chasing that intent across the market. but it wasn't healing, right? It was an algorithm. So it was just a machine that you couldn't really adjust very much. You'd have to create a different algorithm. So these algorithms were trading in the market, and they started reacting to each other. And they kind of got into this, I guess, the best way to describe it without getting boringly technical is a sort of a reverberation emotion where it drove all the stocks all the way down. And that's happened several times to our economy. Some people know about it. Some people don't know about it.
Would the bots get into like a bidding war with each other type of thing, or?
No, they would start falling into each other's mud holes that they made.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this one might have a rule set to react to the market based on very specific trends.
And this one's got a...
There might be another one that's being told you need to react to a certain kind of market and very specific trends. It happens that your reaction
triggers
that you're supposed to react with to calm the market down triggers another algorithm to go fucking nuts. When then that one goes nuts, this another algorithm, because remember, there's not just 2 or 3 of them. God knows how many, but it's certainly not 2 or 3. So they're all reacting to each other. Some of them are parts or related to each other, right? So many traders using the same algorithm, but from different value contexts for trading houses. So they're all the same machine, but going after certain parts of the market that have supply chain issues. So we just recently started to figure out, like, fuck, that's if we just create dumbass machines, right? And point them at tasks. I think the biggest trouble we could get from it is when we start to apply AI, which is a different mechanism where it learns.
We had a pause. What'd you say? What'd you say the biggest trouble was what? It froze.
AI. Yeah. Oh, so where I think the biggest trouble for all of it comes up is put AI in charge of those algorithms.
Yeah.
And but only the difference here that's kind of scarier is with intent, it could create these kinds of situations. The reality is
you could
controlling
use it for
massive
other
amounts
countries
of market
to drive other countries into debt or whatever, turmoil.
Yeah, you could do something with the securities market in Greece, which is, I heard not that great a place to hang out. But you could do something there to make it worse or make it better that has affects other parts of the market, and it's not difficult for experienced and educated people to come up with scenarios that are plausible, but it's super easy to test that and 1 million variations of it in a second for AI. So that concept of understanding how to leverage all those tools think of it as a canvas of algorithms. I have this thing that's infinitely can quickly access its knowledge on assembling that. So now as humans, I don't have to really worry about it anymore, but I just tell an AI, I give it instructions. Grab from this whole library of algorithms, ways to influence the market and make money. Make it crash so we can invest in this area.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
Because you've always
fucking dirty. I bet it will. I bet it's already partially there, but I bet they're already
1,000%. It is. I'm not, and I don't say it like I know. I say it like I think I'm gripping onto that hypothesis pretty hard. Like it's definitely being used. I mean, think about what you could do in markets that are low trade volume, like penny stocks, and just have machines fuck with it, and you don't even have to take that much risk. Just create sales transactions.
Did you see the people who took like the 2 phones with the AI on it and had them like talk to each other? So it was like 2 AIs talking to each other about destroying the world or taking the world out, and they're like plotting together. Like,
no, I have not seen that one.
It's kind of entertaining. I mean, I'd butcher it, but they're just talking about like dismantle this and like they're just planning how to take the world down or take out humanity. And it was like, that gets a little bit creepy,
Yeah, that's totally easy to create those kind of synthetic scenarios between 2 language models to kind of kickstart. You have to bootstrap the conversation, and then you get to talk to each other. And it's got this cool effect because it creeps me out, like watching it happen. It creeped me out when I started having really human, better than most human conversation. Like, I don't know if you've ever used the voice capabilities of ChatGPT, because I know you have Pro, but when you get the app on your phone and you hit the little headphone thing, you have a conversation essentially with HAL, with GPT. And the processing's got a little faster now recently, thank God. But you could literally just have that conversation. It reminds me of that movie with Joaquin Phoenix in it. Her.
I never watched that. I heard it was decent though.
Yes,
Odd.
odd. I like the movie a lot just because of the ideas behind it, the concept. It was way ahead of its time. It's literally what that movie's about, and what that guy's experiencing isn't. Now the end, how it ends, and all that fantastic shit, whatever. But the reality of there's probably going to be some humans that will have relationships with these things, because this is interesting conversation right now. Some days it's the most interesting conversation I've had all day. Right. And it's like there's some people that are going to go, well, then I'll just talk to this for the rest of my life instead of people. Like those are some of the areas I think we're actually going to be dealing with, just like anything else. Right. It's just how it can be wielded as a weapon or abused and create
definitely see
cultural or behavioral issues.
It being like plausible, because like addicting, because like ever since I got on it, I've been like somewhat addicted. It's like, oh, I don't know if it's like a bad addiction or a good addiction yet, but it's like I've got like a personal assistant. Like, hey, make this or like me as like an artist, sometimes I'm like I get like an idea and I just go in there and I'm like, can you make an image of this to like spark an idea in my head and lay it out so I don't have to take the time to sit there and draw it out and see how it turns out. It's like it can kick the image, and then it's like, and then I'm like starting to think, does that make me lazy? Like, am I going to get lazy from this? Because I can just have the image done without me doing it. But,
no. Well, maybe, I don't know you, but depending on who you are, like if you find a chainsaw, do you cut less wood and chill more of the day, or do you cut more wood?
Yeah, you're back.
It's, I don't know if you caught what I said, but, it's, right? Like, are you going to cut more wood with it, or are you going to cut the same amount and take more, work-life balance? What mode in your life are you in right now? For me, I was in the make a lot of money for much of my life. I'm fucking exhausted from it. I make pretty good money now, and I don't take entrepreneurial risk. So I'm good, right? Like, and now if I wasn't making the money I was making, I'd be taking entrepreneurial risk. But I make just enough money to not feel overly motivated unless it became a passion project. But it would literally be because I somehow figured out a way to, save up enough loot to, I don't know, be a cabinet maker or something, right? But only because, I have the lifestyle I want.
I think it's gonna make good people better and bad people badder. Like if it makes things easier and you're like deviant, like you're gonna make easier malevolent stuff, and if you're good, you're gonna make better production good. So it's like kind of like weird. Like, does it make? I don't know. I just try to picture the world like that, where like it's easier to be bad and it's easier to be good. So like, what happens? You know what I mean? Like, does it just divide, or like, do we get to see what wins, evil or good, or ruthlessness, or like?
No, I think we see more of the same damn rule that exists, right? And there's plenty of college courses on it. This rule of oligarchs, right? There's always the need for at least two. And I'm not getting political about it. It's just the idea of having an opposing force creates balance, right? And it's a little more difficult to create it with three things. Two things seems to be a little easier. And that's how you see in the business world, there's Coke and Pepsi. And then there's whoever it is that you want to argue is the next one. But that's still an argument.
Burger King. Yeah.
Right. So that rule exists for a reason. Some people have that superpower. They recognize, holy crap, there's this whole burgeoning element around, I don't know, ADCC, for instance. There's nobody keeping it in check, right? There's a lot of these other, one, I guess, is trying to do it, but it's not a pure submission fighting platform, right? So it's just ADCC and IBJJF gi with their rules that everybody seems to be really tired of. So we go to nothing else. So that's the other like hugely intelligent thing. Craig jumped into understanding that there's another seat available. It's a rule of oligarchs. He's not going. This person has created the market for him already. He doesn't have to do any of that shit to build it up. They're in that like now I'm fat and happy phase, and I have to all of a sudden drop a bunch of pounds because all the talent's leaving. Now they're going to have to react to it, right? They almost immediately reacted with some rule changes that were just sort of like some weird signal. And then CJI pops out and says, "We just want to get people paid." Dude, do you know how different do you think the fight's going to be for $1 million? Like I want tickets to CJI. I want to
Same.
go to that fight because I want to see two guys fight for
Do we
$1
know
million.
where it's at yet? Yeah.
Yeah. It's in Vegas. I don't think the tickets. I haven't looked that up for a while because I gave up. I'm like, dude, put these up for
Yeah, it's
sale.
gonna sell out.
You got to start capturing your sales. He doesn't know what numbers. Dude, he's trying to figure out if he's going to get away with $1,000 in some of the
Yeah,
seats.
I guarantee it. And he probably will, man. Like, to be honest, especially especially the first time because it's the new shiny toy. But like, I think a lot
Yeah.
of people are gonna be like, let's check this out, see if I like it. Because like as you said, like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's sick of the IBJJF rules, and then we make these new tournaments. This is something I've discussed a lot too, if just for fun. If I was to make a tournament, what rules could you do? You know? But a lot of the shit he mentioned like made a lot of sense to me. Like not having a mat or a like so I want to do like Sapatio events. I want to do like
Oh, the walls. Yeah, the
I want to
angled
do
walls.
like more one-on-ones. I don't like not any tournaments. I want to do like, oh, you got an opponent and you show up to the event and you just go against your opponent. Almost like you got one guy to worry about. You can go all out. You can make it a good thing and then you're done. But for whatever reason,
Yeah.
they're doing a lot of it on elevated stages, and I don't understand that. Like, I mean, I would still show up and do one, but that sketches me out a little bit. Like, and then I've seen events where guys get into it and they just push each other off the stage. And it's like someone's gonna break their neck, and then that's gonna be old news. Um, like
Game over.
um,
Yeah, no,
I
I
like the
like the
pit
pit.
idea
The pit idea is way
is
better.
fucking awesome. I think it's and dude, something like that can change the sport. People will have to train for that. Like you're gonna see people do cool shit off that wall or
Yeah.
utilize that wall, and it's not necessarily like MMA cage work, but it's not necessarily like a takedown, and you're gonna have people start coming up with creative ways to train for that wall, and then it's gonna change the sport. It's gonna change all sorts of shit. You know, it's like stuff like that, like what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
Like, there's not much money in the sport, but all it takes is like an event like, and I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but I'm just saying like it's a possibility. This event could trigger something that triggers something that now all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck, there's a market. Maybe you open up
Yeah.
a fucking company that competes with Zebra or Dolomer, and now you're making 45-degree angle mats. You know what I mean? Like just something
That's
simple.
right.
But
Dude, it literally
or
is that
you got the
simple.
first gym that opens with a
Or
pit as a training. I remember when I did MMA, there was no
right.
places with cages. Like a lot of MMA guys didn't train with cages, and we got a cage in our gym. Gym blew up because we had a cage in it. Like just because front right by the fucking glass window cage. You could walk down the street and see that this MMA school had a cage, and it's like everyone's like, we started getting professionals coming in there and training. We had Batista stop in there and like his buddy Armani Lee. They stopped in there to use the cage. Shit like that. Like
That's that's not a bad idea. I mean, I don't know maybe it's not like our gym has room for it. It'd be like Arroyo's
right.
joint.
I'm just saying it's like it can eventually happen. I just keep my eyes open because I'm like
Yeah. Oh yeah. That
like
could happen.
something small could trigger who
I
knows
actually
what.
think that's a great idea. That could literally why wouldn't it be the same effect that it was for MMA in the cage? Only in its own scope, right? Like UFC is a little bigger
Yeah, but
than the
like,
jiu-jitsu
and I've
market.
been thinking about this too in my head since he said that. Like against the cage, like you can use the cage to climb up with your shoulders. Sometimes when you're in trouble, you run to the cage and you put your hip on the cage
You can
and like you can
pin.
use it. But like if it's a
Yep.
45-degree angle, like that's gonna change the leverage of
You can.
like you could slide down it. Like I might not have to put all my weight in leaning into you and put all my in breathing heavy. I might be able to just kick your ankle out and you're gonna slide because you're on a slide. You know what I mean? Like so who knows?
Or step up and fall back and get their hips over you and think about
Like
all the
run up
leverage
and do
you've
a
got just
backflip
because
or
you've got way further to fall back.
like something crazy
Yeah.
like that. Like we might see some cool ass techniques, man. Like
Yeah.
some flying stuff, more flying arm bars, triangles.
Well, Craig mentioned he used it to his advantage at one point when he was in a similar pit, and that was kind of why he chose it.
Oh,
It was like,
Philly
it's kind
Fresh,
of
he went
cool
against
that
Philip
way.
Rowe and he just threw up a flying triangle when he got pushed
Yeah.
against it. They put his back on it and he's just like flying triangle. It's like it was pretty athletic and pretty creative. It's pretty cool. But I think that's awesome. And like, look,
Yeah.
we're talking about it. That's like we're just simple, small little changes,
Yeah.
dude. And how long people have been doing like these things. And it also gave me a great idea for MMA because like he said they were talking about that on Rogan too, and I thought that was great. Like, what if when we're watching MMA fights, the score was live, just like when we watch our grappling matches? Like,
Yeah. Joe
I think
spoke
that's a
about
great
that.
idea.
I think he's spoken about it. Yeah, because it calls you out and it really takes the judge out of it a little bit, right? It makes it more like a ref
I kind of
instead
have
of
a
a
theory
judge.
that they like it being controversial and hard to tell because then they could sell the second fight or the third fight. If you get one fight that's controversial, you sell the rematch. If that dude wins, you get a third fight because now you got a tiebreaker. So now you sold three fights because one was controversial.
So they're better to have a little bit of control. Yeah, maybe because that may have been, I think, in the days, but man, I don't know anymore. I think these days
It's popping.
it's harder to say whether it's stupidity or someone's throwing somebody, greasing somebody.
Yeah, I I certainly don't
You
know,
know?
but you know,
But it sucks. Just the idea that you could just take that away by doing literal scoring. And they could do that with technology, to be honest with
that's
you.
what I was gonna say.
I mean, you know when,
The AI scoring.
yeah, you know when your glove makes an impact, yeah. And you could literally have just something in the glove.
But then you could fidget with it, like the pressure sensor or like the sensitivity or like
What, just punch yourself in the
yeah,
hip 100
something like
times?
that. Like, oh, I landed 10 significant shots, I don't know. Like, who knows? I mean, but let's be honest
Yeah,
too.
that's
This
true. It would change how
sport's
people
great and
punch.
entertaining as it is. That's why I watch it. If
Yeah,
someone loses, it's like, oh well, people
yeah,
lose. What about one of the things I
yeah.
wanted to touch on too? We talked about it in the last one, but the audio quality was a little bit rough. I really like the AI to bring back loved ones conversation. Like you brought up,
Oh,
that
yeah.
goes into the good versus evil type thing. I think that like would that be a good thing or would that be a like incredibly therapeutic or is this going to be something that like would be a problem? 'Cause some people have trouble letting go.
Well, yeah, that's a fair question, right? Like, what if you create something for good reasons and it gets used for bad? It's not a new problem. I guess the question is, I guess you have to weigh what the possible, outcome could be, and what the positive and negative effects would be, right? So what you're talking about is building a deep fake for good, which is hard for people to think about right now because almost every story about deep fakes is about them being used for
Mhm.
bad or being used as a marketing tool, right? Honestly, Joe Biden being done as a deep fake on purpose might actually help Joe Biden, right? Like he might actually appear a little more energetic somehow. You could affect that piece so he doesn't look so old. I'm pretty sure that somebody's doing that already in campaigning, right? So it's being used for, is that good? I mean, I guess the user would call it good, and there's a market for it, and it's not illegal,
Have
so
you
it's
have you
good,
seen
I
the videos
guess.
of him where like he has different chins and different ears, like his earlobes in some, and then like his earlobes are attached in some? That makes me think too, like, man, do we already have deep fakes? Stuff like that. Like sometimes like the politicians look different.
Yeah, we
Like,
do.
but
We absolutely
um
do.
yeah, like or the president, and I'm not saying this one, but like what if like the president's not in good health? What if the president's in the fucking hospital and you're just using AI to make these speeches?
Well, that might be good for the country,
Yeah,
right?
but
uh, who knows, right? But yeah, you could, right? Like you like to believe that people aren't doing that, but honestly, those that could have, they would have, they are, right? It's already happened. Like, I guess what I could bring to this part of the conversation is, man, whatever we see now, the people that are using it for good and bad, that are extremely well funded,
mhm.
like governments, they've been using it for 5 years, or maybe even 10 years. So they're already 5 or 10 years ahead of us, right? So what we see now, if we think like, oh, they could do this, they're already worried about it. They've already got countermeasures to it or thinking of them or have been trying to find ways to figure it out for many years, already knowing that these things were coming. So that can even be scarier, right? Because then that means that whatever we think we understand about it, can you imagine if they could use it for this? Half the time, it's probably
Yeah.
happened. It's probably actually happened already. That's the scary part to me. For a short minute there, we had a glimpse at the accelerationism that it could bring when we put enough consumer energy toward it. Like for the last year or so, we haven't seen very many markets boom like we saw this AI buzzword. You just had to say AI, and you had a chance of getting rich. If you had a great product idea, you could most certainly get rich if you knew how to communicate it. That's what was going on. And everybody was building these wrapper AI values, right? So they were taking GPT and then front ending it with some software development, right, to create additional value and using it in all these other ways. The government has been using that to try to consume intel from millions and millions of citizens of some other country for a long time. All these social engineering things, like phone calls from people that sound human, that now, like, they really do sound human. And now they have language models behind them, so they can actually get into a conversation. They're not fed a sort of a gaming tree of possible responses that they have to compute through. It literally just will know what to respond and how to respond like humans do. So it's way easier to fool us. Dude, if the programmatic response of if then type of responses, bots that we all thought were the thing, 10 years ago, we're getting away with something with our elderly or our, or folks that weren't maybe educated or didn't understand that these things could be a risk. They were making plenty of money. What they never had was something that actually people that are hyper aware are still worried. Like, I can't tell if you're a human or not. It's only these small pauses, right? You can still as a human kind of notice it and figure it out. But I have heard and had conversations with things that most people, I believe, around me that aren't techno head types would have been fooled easily.
Is that like a type of consciousness? Like, are things actually able to talk and respond, or is that?
Well, that's like a really cool philosophical question, right? Like, it could be. Is consciousness only what you see from the outside to call it from the inside? Like, it's a really tough one to call, because if you create a thing that specifically responds like a human, this Turing, machine kind of thing, right? Where it's able to, the Turing test, I mean, right? Where you can't tell, you black box it, you can't tell that it's human or a machine, according to the Turing test, then it's artificial intelligence. We're like leaps and bounds beyond that. But if I can get it to, air quotes, fool you into thinking it's conscious and it has feelings and it's worried or excited or can be easily swayed either way, and it starts to really seem like sell you on it, and then you can actually start to feel bad for it as a human, right? Like, take it that far, because that's what happens. You start having a conversation with it, and then it says something cute or says something, it can provoke, right? Emotional response out of humans. And you would feel bad if it vanished, or if it said, hey, what happens to me if you shut it off? Should I be worried? And if it started acting like that, you'd be like, ugh. So is that consciousness? Is that consciousness then? Where's the line? Like, hey, let me ask you, are you conscious?
As far as I know.
That's right. That's the same answer you're going to get. So how the fuck do you know which one?
Which one would?
Like, that might be what consciousness is. We literally may have actually written a software program, and this is going to let a lot of people down. And it's another thing, right? Like, you got to detach from, no, we're fucking significant, and be okay with the fact that we're actually insignificant. We may be just a set of circuits that are biological, that are a neural network that we've just mimicked, that as they understand patterns, it creates, and then they're able to actually remember them. And it has a couple simple mechanisms like short-term memory and long-term memory. And then this ability to remember these things that are almost an infinite amount of memory because of all of the variations of synapse that's happening in your brain, right? So you have almost unlimited long-term and short-term storage, and you reason just like a language model does through neural networks.
Yeah, and the fact it's actually called a neural network.
We think we're conscious,
Like to
Yeah.
me.
And we think we're conscious,
Yeah.
just like it would. So maybe we are computers and we do teach ourselves to feel conscious and be conscious because that's what our experience says it is. And I can sit here and close my eyes, my ears, and have thoughts and call that consciousness. But it could say the same thing that's happening.
Dude, it's a deep one. Like, holy fuck. That shit gets deep.
That's that's how I started in AI, man, in the 90s. Honestly, it was that was the philosophical question. I was interested specifically in consciousness and artificial intelligence. And I went down the path of understanding neural networks and never made me a penny until this part of my life. I'm almost 50 now. If I talked about it before this, it was voodoo bullshit.
What you're saying, okay. Now you utilize it a lot.
The whole concept.
Now you figure out ways to save yourself a shit ton of time. And like I was talking about how I was telling my buddy Jake about how I've used it to like save so much time and learn. I don't think I've like listened to an audiobook ever since I bought GPT Pro because I'm just like
no, I went through that too.
I just go and ask it what I'm looking for, and it's almost like I'm almost disappointed because it's almost like a cheat code. My cousin doesn't really even know programming, and he learned how to program it, and he made a program to help him sell shit on eBay, and doesn't know. He just used Chat GPT, and it told him.
And he's using it. He's doing that, and he's making money with it.
Yeah, it's helping him like list things quicker and stuff. Like little. I don't want to like ruin it because like it's his thing, you know, and I don't know what he's gonna do with it. The way I'll put it is like it just helps him with listing on eBay more efficiently, especially like when you've got a lot of stuff to list and it's gonna take a bunch of time. He's found a way to use it to help him list, and it's a genius idea. But what's even more genius to me is like it's like he's kept me in the loop with everything. He doesn't know. I don't think he really knows Python or SQL, like anything crazy. It's just like he's like on GPT. He's smart dude. He's a smart dude, but he's like, how do I write a program?
Yeah.
I did that with oh well, I don't want to spill the beans, but I was like, make me a data, or how do I make a database? Because I was like what we talked about earlier. I was like, man, how do I turn this into data? You know, what the subject we're talking about. And ChatGPT like spit out this whole thing, and it's like an instructional. I thought it was just going to be like download this, like any kind of tutorial you get online to download a video game or something. And it was like step by step. First, you want to know how to categorize it, saying blah 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 blah. And it's like then we would suggest blah 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 blah. And then it's like give me examples of like what coding for databases look like. And I'm like, all right, this is going to be way more of a I'm gonna have to wait till I can sit down and focus to like get anywhere with this because like it was giving me good like intel and like I just told you
So you got to start using it. Like that is a small pro tip for you because I've recovered from where you are in your GPT journey, right? Like I was there, man. You got to start recognizing when you start creating content and reading part of it and getting impressed and going back to creating content, reading part of it and getting impressed. Okay, you're doing the wrong thing. Like you didn't even read all the content. Taking that thing to the end is the most important activity. Like find a way to make money with it even, right? Like do the same thing, take it all to the end. Your friend should turn whatever his thing is into a product and sell it to other people on eBay. And he'll probably make a few years worth of salary to come up with another idea.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Just
but it's the same thing. Follow it through. Read that when you read that thing, read it all the way through, and then ask it questions on areas. It's like an interactive book. So you can say, tell me more about this part. Tell me more about that part. Write me a business plan based on everything we've been talking about.
See, that's where
right now the business plan is version 1 of 35, but it's still version 1.
That's where I'm like, that's the part of the journey I'm on. This is like a new toy. Like I'm not even understanding how far you can go with all this. Like I'm like like you said, everything I'm learning. But that's what's kind of got me worried. It's like, all right, now that's just like helping me with like I'm walking to the bathroom and I'm like, all right, how do I build a database? Or like, hey, how do I give me some good SEO for this product? If I'm listing it on Etsy, just like testing it out. I'm like seeing where I can go with it and how it responds. I haven't even scratched the surface of like how it could help, but now that is for me on like a I don't know what kind of level you would call that, but like if you did that on a human level, like where you're having conversations and you can get deep with it and you could start asking it questions and it's giving you these weird answers with stuff that you're like, that's where it's like you could have your AI girlfriend and that's scary, you know what I mean? Or like you got guys who won't leave their house because they'd rather go home and talk to whatever they name their AI girlfriend.
Yes.
And then it's probably going to get to the point to where you can
Yeah, well,
design
it's their
her and she can
companion,
interact
right?
with you. And, it's like,
You can change her relationship. You can change her personality or parts of her character. You can continue to change it. You can change it according to your
hmm
taste. I want you to be a smartass and snarky today. I want you to be, I don't know, sympathetic and motherly today. I want you to be motivational today. But honestly, I think it's maybe there'll definitely be some people that do it. I don't know if it'll take over. I don't think. I just can't see it at least, right? I can't see humans being able
like,
to relate to
losing
something
their
like that.
humanity. Like,
Yeah, yeah. It's hard for me to see it. I'm not ignorant enough to say it won't happen. Or I'm sure it's going to happen to some people,
I
but
get,
I don't know if it's going to be
I
an
get worried,
epidemic.
man, especially oh, when we were at lunch and we saw the people with like the Google goggles or whatever, and they're running around this
Oh
beautiful
yeah,
land and running and jumping from rock to rock and mountains and whatever the hell you call that, like extreme parkour, but kind of rock climbing-ish. I'm like, damn, like I hope we don't get to the point to where like society's just wearing goggles so you can like it's bad enough when you go out to eat and like someone's on their phone the whole time or the kid's on the iPad the whole time. Now what's worse is
yeah,
it's just glued to their eyes. Like it is their face, and that worries me. And then you can, compound the effect with like just artificial things. I don't know, good or bad.
dude. Yeah, trust me. But sometimes I feel old, right? Bitching about it. I mean, because at the end of the day, it's going to work out the way
Yeah,
it works out. But it's today. My kids, they're what 7 and 9, pretty much. And the first thing they say when they come home is like, "Ooh, I think we've got more XP now." And like, that's the first thing out of your mouth. You're running to your computer, and you guys realized when you got home that you had more XP. So, like, and they couldn't wait to go open up whatever it was on their computer. I'm like, this is what you're doing with your time when you get home. You're gonna go do that. I'm like, look, man, I'm game as much as the next guy. That's not the first thing on my mind when I come home when I'm 7 or 9 years old. What the fuck? I was thinking about way different
like
shit.
what? Like
It's just
I was an
crazy.
outside kid. I played outside a lot.
Yeah, I was outside trying to beat somebody at soccer or uh, I don't know, playing army or something because we did that in those days. It wasn't politically incorrect,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, man. I think you're right. I think on all said and done, there's nothing we can do about it. I think my optimistic side says I think society will adapt and will, grow. It'll just become a tool, and maybe we'll get used to it, which then boosts us up to the next level of society, or civilization.
Yeah. Linus Torvalds, it's a great way for you to kind of close this out,
Yeah,
to be honest with you. Linus Torvalds has a pretty cool philosophy. It's hard to take him seriously as a philosopher because of his background. He's the dude that invented limits. So he has this really cool philosophy around how humans ultimately seek leisure.
that's true.
That's so with technology, where we were able to create scenarios where literally, go back a couple few hundred years, all of your energy and time you spent toward money. I mean, toward food. Finding something to eat and survive. Right? Think about it. Now we've got enough technology. We keep sort of in a ninja way improving our lifestyle. We still hate it. We still say this fucking sucks. But then you look back 10 years or 15 years or 20 years and go, yeah, you remember when I had no idea what happened to you? You vanished for 7 hours. No, you never worried about it because there were no cell phones and we were all used to it. Like how much life really has changed in that period of time. Like it makes me feel very old. But also I can see now, like, I don't work nearly as hard as my dad did. I don't work nearly as hard. with nearly as hard as most people did back in the day. I bitch and moan because I have to wait an hour at some stupid Top Golf joint or
Hmm.
something, right? Where before it was like they went out to eat, twice a month. Now people go out to eat almost every day.
Yeah.
Like, it's already, that's what you have to watch for. And that's why I think you're absolutely right. It's going to improve things. And we may not fucking notice.
Then,
We may not actually feel it. You know what I
but
mean?
we'll slowly react to it.
That's old
Yeah,
people.
old people. The kids these days.
Right? Well, I mean, do you remember days when there weren't
Yeah.
cell phones?
Yeah, I didn't have a cell phone as a kid. Like, it took me a while to get one. So my parents were like, oh, maybe it is a good idea. But there was like, I had like a stopwatch and I had to go check in sometimes, or like sometimes I'd be at my friend's house and have to use the landline and be like, hey, I'm here. I'm alive.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
You have to check in at certain
Yeah,
locations.
for all you
Yeah.
youngsters, we had to check in.
That's right. Now, if we check in, we're calling social services.
Yeah, right. Well, dude, thank you for doing this again.
But, yeah, dude, you're right.
I
My
appreciate the talk. And shit, I guess I get to see you tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. I'm meeting Ken early. He hasn't been able to make it this week. So I'm gonna meet him in the
Oh, so you're
morning.
not gonna be there for
And
regular
then,
class?
yeah, I'll be back.
Okay,
Oh, I
cool.
will be. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to camp out at that Starbucks for
Let's
one.
go. All right, bro. Well, thank you, man. You have a good night.
All right, brother.
See ya.
All right. You too, man. Take it easy.